Amber Lyon is an award-winning journalist who worked for CNN. She says while working at CNN she was ordered to report fake stories, delete unfriendly stories adverse to the Obama administration, like the Nick Robertson report, and construct stories in specific manners while working for the left-wing network. Why? According to Lyon, CNN is paid by foreign and domestic government agencies for specific content. Let me repeat that. CNN is paid by the U.S. government for reporting on some events, and not reporting on others. The Obama administration pays CNN for content control. Let that sink in. Additionally, CNN and CNN International are also paid by foreign governments to avoid stories that are damaging, and construct narratives that show them in a better, albeit false, light. Amber Lyon is a 3-time Emmy-winning investigative journalist and photographer. She accuses CNN of being fake news. Back in March 2011, CNN sent a 4-person team to Bahrain to cover the Arab Spring. Once there, the crew was the subject of extreme intimidation amongst other things, but they were able to record some fantastic footage. Bahrain banner, Bahrain 2, as Glenn Greenwald of the UK's Guardian writes in his blockbuster article from September 4, 2012. In the segment, Lyon interviewed activists as they explicitly described their torture at the hands of government forces, while family members recounted their relatives' abrupt disappearances. She spoke with government officials justifying the imprisonment of activists. And the segment featured harrowing video footage of regime forces shooting unarmed demonstrators, along with the mass arrests of peaceful protesters. In sum, the early 2011 CNN segment on Bahrain presented one of the starkest reports to date of the brutal repression embraced by the US-backed regime. Despite these accolades, and despite the dangers their own journalists and their sources endured to produce it, CNN International, CNI, never broadcast the documentary. Even in the face of numerous inquiries and complaints from their own employees inside CNN, it continued to refuse to broadcast the program or even provide any explanation for the decision. To date, this documentary has never aired on CNI. Having just returned from Bahrain, Lyon says she saw firsthand that these regime claims were lies, and I couldn't believe CNN was making me put what I knew to be government lies into my reporting. Here is a segment of the Bahrain report that Amber Lyon and her team put together. CNI refused to allow it to air because the Bahrain government had paid them not to show it. When Amber Lyon recognized the extent of the reasoning, she challenged CNN. According to Lyon, CNN told her to be quiet, and soon thereafter began to view her as a risk. From her experience inside the facts of the Bahrain story, and will direct instructions from CNN executives not to report on it, she knew, and found out, too much. Amber is now trying to tell the story, the real story, of what is going on behind the closed doors of US media entities. Much like former CBS investigative reporter Charlotte Curzon, Amber Lyon has created her own website, and additionally, as noted in the Guardian article, she is trying to share the truth of the deceptions. What Amber Lyon describes is exactly the reason why CNN never aired the Nick Robertson interview with Mohammed El-Zawahiri in Egypt. Cairo Protest 2 Cairo Protest 1. Amber recently did a web interview with Alex Jones on InfoWars. Generally, the Treehouse does not appreciate the approach of Alex Jones. It's not because Jones does not hold value in truth-seeking, it's just because he's wound up tighter than piano wire, and unfortunately much of his message is diminished because of the hype he places upon it. Subsequently, Alex Jones becomes easy to disregard as a conspiracy theorist, not because of what he says, but because of how he says it. Everything appears desperate and dangerous with him. That said, the words and explanations of Miss Lyon in the interview are poignant and vastly informative. So we share the video with you so you can hear from Amber herself exactly what is being described and articulated.